There are prayers children make before they understand what they are asking for. Some children pray for dolls. Some pray for sweets. Some pray to pass their exams. I prayed for a man, not a prince, not a hero, not someone tall, handsome, or rich. I prayed for one thing only, a man who would be the opposite of my father. But before I tell you about the prayer, I have to tell you about the lion. I grew up in a house so full of children that counting us depended on who had arrived for the holidays. There were brothers and sisters, half-brothers and half-sisters, cousins who came for 1 week and somehow stayed for 3 months, drivers, staff, visitors, noise, chaos, life. From the outside, it looked like abundance, a big house, a powerful father, a successful mother, cars, school uniforms, food on the table. People thought we were lucky, and maybe in some ways we were. But children do not measure safety by the size of a house. They measure it by what happens when the gate opens. Every evening, my father's arrival announced itself before he entered the house. 2 sounds, that was all it took. The house that had been alive only seconds before suddenly remembered how to be silent because the lion had come home. Outside our gates, my father was adored. He was tall, charismatic, successful, the kind of man who could walk into a room and make people feel important. Other children loved him. Outside, he was everyone's favorite lion. Inside, we were his cubs, and we were afraid of him. My mother was a judge, beautiful, intelligent, strong, the kind of woman who carried entire families on her shoulders and still woke up the next morning to carry more. I adored her. While the other children played together, I stayed close to her. I followed her everywhere. I sat quietly in her office. I drew beside her while she worked. I listened. I watched. I was not the loudest child. I was not the wildest. I was not even the best student. I was simply paying attention. And children who pay attention often see things they are too young to understand. I saw my mother cry. I heard things through walls that children should never hear. I saw mornings after nights nobody explained. I saw hospital visits. I saw prayers. And I watched my mother search for hope in places where hope was being sold to women who desperately needed it.
He will change. Be patient.
Again and again, people promised my mother that the lion would change. Again and again, she chose to believe them. Because hope is stubborn, especially when love is involved. I believed them too, until I didn't. My father loved boys openly. There was one son in particular, healthy, handsome, born the same year as me, carrying my father's name. He was the future king. Everyone knew it, even the children. I know now that he was only a child, but back then, all I knew was this: he was seen, and I was trying very hard to become visible. Her name was Bijou. It means jewels in French. Treasures, the precious things families hold close. She was my oldest sister, and she was beautiful. That day, she was also terrified. I did not understand everything that happened that day. I only knew that my sister had walked into that room frightened and came out carrying something much heavier.
Last in your class? All you do is run around with boys? You bring shame into this family? You are nothing but a disgrace. All I have in this house are useless girls. The only child I care about is my son. Now get out of my face!
Afterward, I went to my room and fell asleep. That is the strange thing about childhood. The world can shift beneath your feet, and your body still asks for a nap. When I woke up, the house had changed. The laughter had disappeared. The whispers had arrived. People were crying. My grandmother was there, and my sister was gone. At 8 years old, I did not have the language adults use for unbearable pain. I did not understand all the reasons people choose to leave before their time. I only knew this: my sister had been here, and then she wasn't. In the simple mathematics of a child's heart, I made sense of it the only way I knew how. Words mattered. The people who were meant to protect us could also wound us, and girls deserved better. That day, I made a decision, quietly. Children often make the biggest decisions of their lives in silence. I would show him. I would show him that girls could be strong, that women could succeed, that being born a daughter did not mean being born less. Before that day, I had been an average student. After Bijou left us, average no longer felt like enough. I studied, I worked, I excelled. I became first in my class because somewhere in my little girl mind, I believed achievement could do what love had not. Maybe if I was good enough, he would finally see me. Maybe if I was brilliant enough, he would finally value girls. Children have a touching faith in report cards. The first time I brought him a report card that said I was the best, I thought the lion would finally look at me. And he did, for 1 second.
How can your sister do better than you? She is a girl. Look at her.
Even when I won, I wasn't the prize. I became a comparison, a lesson, a weapon, and somehow I still wasn't seen. So I became the good girl, the obedient girl, the girl who studied, the girl who followed the rules, the girl who wanted everyone to be proud, the girl who believed perfection might finally make her safe. But perfection is a terrible hiding place because people can applaud your achievements and still fail to see you. My mother taught us to pray, so every night I did. Not for toys, not for beauty, not for money. Only one thing.
God, please, please, when I grow up, please let me marry a man who is the opposite of my father. His opposite. Everything he is not. Please, God, please.
I didn't know what that meant. I didn't understand complexity. I didn't understand contradictions. I only knew fear. I only knew my mother's tears. I only knew the horn at the gate. I only knew Bijou's report card lying on the floor. So I prayed with the certainty only children possess. Not this. Please, God, anything but this. Did God answer your prayer? Oh, yes, He did. But be careful with childhood prayers. Life has a habit of granting them exactly as they were asked. And what happened next? That's where the journey really begins. Sometimes God leads us to places we would have never chosen for ourselves. At 18, that place for me was South Africa, the one place I didn't want to go to, and the one I would end up falling in love with. But before I tell you why I fell in love with South Africa, I have to tell you why I didn't want to go there. The Journey of a Fearless Soul. Episode 2, the trip to South Africa I never wanted. After my sister died, I became the good girl. The girl who studied, the girl who obeyed, the girl who brought home good grades. The girl who tried very hard never to become a disappointment. In high school, I was not invisible anymore. Boys noticed me. They competed for my attention. Some tried to impress me. Some tried to win me. But I was not interested in becoming anyone's story. I had learned too early that girls could be judged. Girls could be blamed. Girls could be reduced to mistakes. So I protected myself. I said no, again and again. No to the boys, no to temptation, no to anything that could turn me into the kind of girl people whispered about. I was still trying to be seen, still trying to be worthy, still trying to become the daughter no one could dismiss. And for a while, achievement became my safest language. If I was excellent, maybe I would be valued. If I was obedient, maybe I would be protected. If I was perfect, maybe I would finally be enough. But perfection is a small room, and life was about to push me out of it. In Cameroon, many parents dreamed of sending their children abroad. France, Canada, the United States, Europe. Those names had weight. They sounded like success before anyone had even arrived. My mother wanted that for me. She was educated, strong, independent. She had worked hard, and she had the means to give her daughter a future beyond the world we knew. So first, we tried France. France made sense to me. We spoke French. I could imagine myself there. I prayed for it. I hoped for it. I waited. But at the last moment, it did not happen. The visa did not come. The door closed. So my mother tried again. This time, Canada, Montreal, French-speaking, far away, big, respected, a place that made people nod when you said its name. And I wanted it. Oh, I wanted Canada. In my teenage mind, Canada was not only a country, it was proof. Proof that I was going somewhere important. Proof that my grades had meant something. Proof that the good girl was finally being rewarded. And this time, everything seemed to be working. The documents, the plan, the hope. There was only one thing left. My mother had to inform my father. My father had his own plan. He wanted to send my brother to South Africa, the son born the same year as me, the son who carried his name, the future king. And when my mother told him that she had arranged for me to go to Canada, he refused. Not softly, not thoughtfully, completely. He said there was no way I would go to Canada while my brother went to South Africa. Either we both went to South Africa, or I would not go anywhere. Just like that, Canada disappeared. Not because I had failed, not because my mother could not pay, not because the dream was impossible, but because once again, my life had been measured beside the boy. And once again, the boy decided the size of my world. I was devastated. I did not want South Africa. I barely knew South Africa. In my young mind, South Africa was not the dream. The dream was France. The dream was Canada. The dream was the countries everyone talked about with admiration. South Africa felt like the consolation prize, and I was ashamed of it. The day came anyway. Suitcases were packed, goodbyes were said. My brother was excited. My cousin was excited. They had not lost another country in their imagination, but I had. I was not only leaving Cameroon, I was leaving the version of my future I had already loved. At the airport, I bumped into a girl from my high school. When she heard I was going to South Africa, she laughed. Everyone else, she reminded me, was going to France, Europe, America, Canada, and I was going to South Africa. The worst part was not that she laughed. The worst part was that I believed her. I believed that I was going somewhere smaller, somewhere less impressive, somewhere I would have to explain. That is the arrogance of youth sometimes. We think we know the value of a door before we have even walked through it. On the plane, I cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough for my body to tell the truth my mouth could not. I was grieving Canada. I was grieving the future I thought I deserved. I was going to South Africa, and I did not want to go. Then we arrived, Cape Town. And the first thing South Africa did was surprise me. It was beautiful. Not a little beautiful, not politely beautiful, powerfully beautiful. The kind of beauty that makes your expectations suddenly feel very stupid. I had arrived carrying disappointment, and South Africa greeted me with mountains, with ocean, with light, with space. As if the country itself was saying, "You do not know me yet." And I did not. I did not know the country. I did not know the history. I did not know the people. I did not know the culture. I did not know that one day when people asked me about the most beautiful places I had ever seen, Cape Town would still live near the top of my answer. I did not know I would fall in love with the country I never wanted. We were placed in a language program, Euro centers. Students came from everywhere, Germany, Angola, France, different countries, different accents, different stories. The idea was simple. We would improve our English, but not only in class. We would live with host families. We would be separated. No hiding inside French, no hiding inside familiarity. For 6 months, we were not allowed to speak French. My brother went to one family, my cousin went to another, and I went to mine. For the first time in my life, I was not under my mother's shadow, not under my father's roof, not inside the noise of our big house, not beside the future king. I was alone, and I was terrified, but I was also free. My host family was the Jaffa family, a Muslim family. Kind, warm, generous. They had 3 children, 1 girl, 2 boys. And somehow, this home that was not mine became the first place where I began to breathe differently. I learned their rhythms, their food, their customs, their prayers. At some point, I even did Ramadan with them. Not because I had to, but because kindness opens curiosity, and curiosity opens the heart. Their home did not look like the home I had left behind. Their faith was not exactly mine. Their family rhythm was different, but I felt welcomed. And sometimes being welcomed by strangers teaches you something painful. It teaches you that love does not always need to be complicated. Sometimes it is simply a place at the table, a warm meal, a gentle voice, a home where nobody is afraid of the sound of the gate. In Cameroon, I had grown up with privilege. Not the kind children always understand while they are inside it, but it was there. Drivers took us places. People knew who my father was. People knew who my mother was. Our family name entered rooms before we did. Certain doors opened. Certain things were easier. Certain cues were not always for us. Then I arrived in South Africa, and suddenly, I was ordinary. At the bank, I waited like everyone else. In offices, I waited like everyone else. In ordinary places, I was treated like an ordinary person. Nobody knew my father. Nobody cared who my mother was. Nobody moved aside because of our name. At first, it felt strange, almost insulting. Then slowly, it became humbling, and then freeing. There is a strange freedom in becoming ordinary. No title to protect, no family name to carry, no reputation to perform. Just me, standing in line, learning that the world did not owe me special treatment, and also learning that I could survive without it. Then one day, I heard a horn. For 1 second, my body forgot where it was. It did not hear South Africa. It heard Cameroon. It heard the gate. It heard children scattering. It heard conversations dying. It heard silence entering the house before my father did. It heard the lion. Then I remembered. He was not here. The lion was far away. The horn did not belong to him. And for the first time, I understood something my mind had not yet been able to explain. I was out of the cage. Freedom does not always arrive like joy. Sometimes it arrives like fear leaving the body slowly. Sometimes it arrives as a room where you are allowed to remain calm, a sound that no longer controls you, a door that does not open to danger, a country you did not want, quietly becoming the place where your nervous system learns a new language. At school, I learned English, but that was not the only language South Africa taught me. It taught me how to walk into a room where nobody knew my story. It taught me how to make friends without my family name. It taught me how to become interesting without being perfect. It taught me that the world was much bigger than the house I came from. At first, my English was careful. Every sentence had to pass through fear. Was it correct? Was my accent strange? Would people laugh? But little by little, words came. Then jokes, then confidence, then friendships. And with every new sentence, another part of me stepped forward. In Cameroon, I had been the good girl, the obedient girl, the daughter, the sister, the girl trying to be seen. In South Africa, I began to meet someone else, myself. South Africa also taught me history differently. In Cameroon, so much of what we admired looked outward. Europe, the West, the countries we were told represented success. But in South Africa, I encountered another kind of pride, a painful pride, a wounded pride, a pride that had survived. I learned more about apartheid, about Nelson Mandela, about Robben Island, about a country that had carried deep wounds and still found ways to sing, dance, argue, rebuild, remember. It was not a perfect country. No country is. There were still divides, white, black, colored, communities shaped by history, pain, survival, and identity. People sometimes assumed I was colored because of my light skin, but I was not. I was Black, African, Cameroonian, and somehow in South Africa, I began to feel the weight and beauty of that more deeply. I had gone there thinking I had missed out on the better country, but South Africa started giving me something I had not known how to ask for. A stronger relationship with Africa, with Blackness, with history, with myself. It is humbling to be wrong, especially when life proves you wrong beautifully. I had judged South Africa before meeting it. I had let other people's ideas tell me what was impressive. I had believed that some destinations made you important and others made you explain yourself. But Cape Town did not need my approval to be magnificent. South Africa did not need my teenage permission to be worthy. It simply opened itself. And slowly, I opened too. I went from shame to wonder, from disappointment to gratitude, from feeling sent away to feeling invited into a new version of my life. I saw beauty everywhere, in the mountains, in the sea, in the people, in the complexity, in the cultures, in the history, in the pain, in the joy. South Africa was not the country I had wanted, but it became one of the most beautiful countries I had ever known. At night, I sometimes thought about home, my mother, my siblings, the house, the gate, the horn, the lion. But distance changes the size of things. When you are inside fear, fear feels like the whole world. When you step away from it, you begin to see its edges. My father was still my father. His shadow still lived in me. But for the first time, his shadow was not covering everything. I could wake up without wondering what mood he was in. I could laugh without listening for footsteps. I could make mistakes in English and nobody turned them into shame. I could be ordinary. I could be young. I could be free. And freedom, for a girl who had spent her life trying to be perfect, was not simple. It was almost frightening. Because when nobody is controlling you, you have to discover who you are. I did not become myself all at once. No one does. I became myself in small moments. The first time I understood a joke in English without translating it in my head. The first time I walked somewhere alone and found my way back. The first time I realized nobody was coming to rescue me and I was not helpless. The first time I saw the ocean and felt small in a way that did not make me feel less. The first time I laughed from my stomach without looking over my shoulder. These moments looked ordinary, but they were not. They were the building blocks of a woman I had not met yet. South Africa did not erase my childhood. It did not heal everything. It did not magically make me fearless. But it gave me distance. And sometimes, distance is the first mercy. When I cried on the plane, I thought life had taken something from me. I thought Canada was the dream I had lost. I thought South Africa was the answer I had to accept because I had no choice. But life is strange. Sometimes the place we resist becomes the place that introduces us to ourselves. Sometimes the road we would never choose becomes the road that changes everything. Sometimes the country we never wanted becomes the country we never forget. I wanted Canada. Life gave me South Africa. And South Africa gave me something I did not yet have the wisdom to request. Freedom, perspective, humility, pride, a wider world, a softer home, a new language, a new self, and eventually a new chapter. Looking back, I find it beautiful how quietly God works. There were no signs, no voices from heaven, no feeling that my life was about to change. Just another classroom, another student, another ordinary morning. Sometimes, the moments that change our lives arrive so gently, we don't even notice them. What happened next? Well, sometimes the place we resist the most is the very place where God chooses to answer our prayers. Sometimes prayers are answered so gently, we don't recognize them at first. At 18, I had prayed for years for one thing, a man who would be the opposite of my father. Not loud, not frightening, not powerful in a way that made people disappear. Safe, kind, soft. And then, in South Africa, in a classroom I had never wanted to enter, I met a boy who looked nothing like the lion I had feared. His name was Sebastian. The Journey of a Fearless Soul, Episode 3, The Boy Who Loved Me First. He was German, sweet-looking, ordinary, in the most beautiful way. Not intimidating, not dramatic, not the kind of man who entered a room and made the air change. He was simply there. And yet, I noticed him noticing me. He looked at me often. Not in a way that scared me, not in a way that demanded anything, just softly, curiously. But there was something I couldn't understand. He spoke to everyone except me. And because I was young, reserved, and still learning how to be chosen, I wondered if I was imagining it. Sebastian loved bringing people together. He was always organizing something, a restaurant, a trip, an activity after school, and every time he invited everyone else first. Then he turned to me. Celestine, do you want to come too? Most of the time, I said no. I was careful, reserved, still learning the language, still learning myself. But one day, for reasons I still can't fully explain, I said yes. That evening, something changed. He sat next to me. He had a little to drink, just enough courage to say what he hadn't been able to say in class. He leaned closer and whispered, "You're very pretty." I froze for a second. Then I smiled. It was the first time he told me, and somehow it was the first time I understood. He hadn't been looking at me because I was different. He had been looking at me because he liked me. After that, he became braver. He asked if we could spend time together, just the two of us. I said, yes. And suddenly, we were always together. The beach, the cinema, restaurants, the waterfront, the mountains, the winelands. The places I was still discovering became places we discovered together. At the movies, we kissed for the first time. It was innocent, sweet, the kind of kiss that doesn't ask for anything, the kind that simply says, "I like being close to you."
His English wasn't perfect.
Mine was still growing. So we carried dictionaries. Two young people falling in love between translations. He searched for a word. I searched for another. Sometimes we misunderstood each other. Sometimes we laughed. But somehow we always understood what mattered. Looking back, I think love doesn't need perfect grammar. Sometimes it only needs two people willing to keep trying. Every day, he brought me something. A lollipop, a flower, a rose. They were small things, but to a girl who had grown up watching love arrive with fear, those small acts felt enormous. He wasn't trying to impress me. He was simply thinking of me, day after day. I kept every rose. I let them dry and placed them carefully inside a box. Proof that softness existed. Proof that attention could be gentle. Proof that a man could give without taking. And proof that I could be loved without being afraid. He was nothing like my father. My father was powerful. Sebastian was gentle. My father was feared. Sebastian made me feel safe. My father filled rooms with his presence. Sebastian filled my days with tenderness. And at 18, that felt like an answer to a prayer. I had asked God for the opposite. And there he was, not a lion, just a boy, a sweet German boy who brought me flowers and told me I was beautiful. He stayed in South Africa for 2 months. 2 months. That felt like a whole little lifetime. He came to meet my host family. I visited his. We kissed, we talked, we explored, and little by little, we fell deeper in love. But I was still the good girl, the careful girl, the girl who had learned that a girl's body could become a story people used against her. So I waited, and he waited with me. Then came his last night, the night before he had to leave. I hadn't planned to give him that part of me, but sometimes the heart, the body, and goodbye meet in a place where plans become smaller than feelings. That night, I crossed a line I had protected for a long time, not because he pressured me, he never did, but because I loved him, and because he was leaving. The next day, I took him to the airport. I told myself I would be strong. In my family, love wasn't something we said out loud. We didn't grow up saying, "I love you." We didn't cry at goodbyes. We didn't really know how to show tenderness. So I tried not to cry. Then he hugged me, looked into my eyes, and said, "I love you." He was the first person to ever say those words to me. Not because he had to, not because it was expected, simply because he felt them. And suddenly, I couldn't stop crying. Not politely, not quietly. I cried like something inside me had finally been seen. As I watched him walk toward the gate, I honestly believed our story was over. When he left, he gave me his pullover. For an entire week, I didn't wash it. I wore it to bed every night because it still smelled like him. At 18, that smell felt like a bridge between South Africa and Germany, between having him and missing him, between the boy who had left and the girl who couldn't stop loving him. But then, something happened. He called. Not once, not sometimes, every day, every single day. I would hear the phone ring and my whole face would light up. We spoke for hours, laughing, listening, learning each other. Our English improved, our feelings deepened, and the distance didn't end the relationship, it grew it. He told his family about me, and in Germany, his family began to worry. Before choosing South Africa, Sebastian had to choose between London and Cape Town. He chose Cape Town. His parents were worried. To them, Africa wasn't yet a place filled with real people, real cities, real families, real girls with nail polish, dreams, and ordinary lives. It was an idea, a stereotype, a fear. And now, their son had come home saying he was in love with me. They didn't know what to expect, and I didn't yet know how often love between two worlds requires translation, not only of words, but of cultures, of histories, of assumptions, and of fear. Two months later, he came back for me. This time, it was Christmas, and the boy I thought I would never see again was standing right in front of me. Some reunions feel like proof that you weren't imagining it, proof that it was real, proof that someone can leave and still choose to come back. And in that moment, I knew our story was only just beginning. Then, on New Year's Eve, by a beautiful pool overlooking the water, he asked me to marry him. "Will you marry me?" And without hesitation, I said yes. In that moment, I was the happiest girl in the world. The girl who had prayed for the opposite of her father had found him. The safe one, the romantic one, the gentle one, the one who called every day, the one who said, "I love you" first, the one who came back. I called my mother. I couldn't wait to tell her. I was engaged. I was young, deeply in love, completely certain. And certainty is one of youth's most beautiful illusions. Later, I went to Germany. The first time I met his family, I walked up to his mother and gave her a hug. And I remember feeling something change, relief, as if the moment she embraced me, she realized I wasn't an idea. I wasn't a stereotype. I was simply a young woman who loved her son. The first gift they gave me was a German book, a new language waiting for me, a new country waiting for me, and a future I thought I already understood.
His family welcomed me, but they also had many things to learn.
Some of the children were surprised that I wore nail polish. One of them thought I had grown up playing with lions in the jungle. People asked innocent questions that made me realize how little they knew about the place I came from. And little by little, I became a bridge between Cameroon and Germany, between Africa and Europe, between what people imagined and what was real. I loved them. I called his parents Mom and Dad. I became part of their world. And for a while, it felt like love hadn't only given me a boy, it had given me another family. For 4 years, we loved each other across the distance. He came to South Africa. I went to Germany. Again and again. Airports became part of our story. Hello, goodbye, I miss you. I'll call you later. See you soon. While I studied, he waited. While he worked with his family, I dreamed. We knew we would marry one day. After my bachelor's degree, after my father gave his blessing, after the distance was finally over. Our future always seemed to begin after one more thing.
Eventually, Sebastian came to Cameroon to meet my father.
My father was skeptical. A young German boy wanted to marry his daughter. He didn't know what to expect. Then one day, we were in the village. Children were playing football outside. Without thinking, Sebastian took off his shoes and joined them, barefoot. He laughed, he ran, he played like one of them. My father watched him, and something softened. Years later, he told me that was the moment he began to like him. Because he realized Sebastian wasn't proud, he wasn't arrogant, he didn't think he was better than anyone else. He was simply a young man who loved football enough to play barefoot with children in a small village in Cameroon. After I finished my bachelor's degree, life moved quickly. There were plans, documents, decisions, and then Copenhagen, a secret wedding. My mother knew, my father didn't. I remember my hand shaking as I signed the papers, not because I didn't love him, but because I felt so alone. No one from my family was there. No father walking me towards this new chapter. No familiar faces, just me, him, and his family. Even then, I knew I was making a decision that would change the rest of my life. A few months later, we flew to Cameroon and got married again. This time, openly. A traditional wedding, a church wedding, and a civil ceremony by the beach. 26 people came from Germany, family, friends, all the way to Cameroon. Seeing them wear traditional clothes, laugh together, dance together, felt so special. It was beautiful, big, colorful, emotional. Two worlds meeting under the same sun. For a moment, it felt like love had done something miraculous. It had crossed continents, languages, families, cultures, distance. And somehow, it had brought all of us together.
After the wedding, we returned to Germany, ready to begin our life together. But beginning a life together is very different from dreaming about one. In South Africa, I had learned to be independent. I had lived away from my parents. I had studied, made my own choices, found my own way. But in Germany, Sebastian was still living with his parents, working in the family business, sleeping in the same house where he had grown up. And I truly loved his family, but deep inside, I longed for something that was ours, a place we could call home.
My best friend from university was German. She was from Berlin. One day, as she began applying to universities, she looked at me and said, "Why don't you apply too?" So I did. At first, everyone seemed supportive, perhaps because they didn't think I would be accepted. But I was. Berlin accepted me, a master's degree, a new city, a bigger world, and deep inside, I knew I was going.
Then came the first crack.
One morning, I woke up to the sound of an argument. His mother didn't want him to leave. She wanted him to stay. Stay in the family business, stay in the village, stay close. And suddenly, the safe boy I loved was standing between two worlds. His family and me. Their plans and mine. Their dreams and my ambition. I listened without saying a word. As a little girl, I had prayed for the opposite of my father, and God had answered that prayer. But I was beginning to understand something I could never have understood as a child. The opposite of danger is not always strength. Sometimes the opposite of fear is safety. And sometimes being safe isn't enough.
So, God did answer your prayer.
Yes, He did. He gave me the opposite of my father, someone gentle, romantic, kind, safe, a boy who loved me first. But there's something I didn't understand back then. Childhood prayers are simple. Life isn't. And then what happened? Well, that's when I learned that being safe isn't the same thing as being whole. When I was little, I believed life was simple. If my father was frightening, I would marry someone gentle. If my childhood had been filled with fear, my marriage would be filled with peace. Children believe healing happens through opposites. Adults eventually learn life is more complicated than that. After Sebastian and I got married, we moved to Berlin. I had been accepted into a master's program. For the first time, it felt like we were finally beginning our own life together. Or at least, I thought we were. The Journey of a Fearless Soul, Episode 4, When Marrying the Opposite of My Father Wasn't Enough. Berlin represented something important to me. Independence, our own home, our own future. After years of long-distance love, I imagined we would finally become a family. I thought the hardest part was behind us. I didn't realize it was only beginning. Sebastian tried to live in two worlds, one in Berlin, one in the south of Germany. Part of him was building a future with me. Another part never really left home. At first, I admired his loyalty. I remember thinking, what a wonderful son. I didn't yet understand that sometimes the qualities we admire most can quietly become the reason a relationship struggles. Every family has its own rhythm. Theirs was close, very close. His parents loved having him nearby. He loved being there for them. There is nothing wrong with loving your family, but little by little, I started feeling as though our marriage was trying to grow in a space that was already full. I couldn't explain it. I only knew I often felt like there wasn't quite enough room for us. I still think about that car ride sometimes. Maybe she simply wanted to sit beside her son. Maybe she wanted to be close to both of us. Maybe it meant nothing at all. Memory is a strange thing. It doesn't always remember facts. Sometimes it remembers feelings. And what I remember feeling was that there wasn't room for me anymore. 6 months after moving to Berlin, I became pregnant. We were overjoyed. Our daughter was on her way. I thought a baby would bring us even closer together. Instead, it revealed the distance that had already begun growing between us. Pregnancy changes more than your body. It changes your heart. You become more vulnerable, more emotional, more aware of who feels close and who feels far away. As my pregnancy progressed, Sebastian kept traveling back and forth. Sometimes it was work, sometimes it was the family business, sometimes his mother wasn't feeling well. I never really knew what each trip meant. I only knew I kept watching him leave. I wanted to build our home in Berlin. His parents dreamed of having us closer. Neither dream was wrong. They were simply different. The more everyone tried to convince me that the South would be better, the more tightly I held on to Berlin. Maybe because I wanted independence. Maybe because I wanted our daughter to begin her life inside a home that belonged to us. Or maybe because I had spent my childhood watching one family become too powerful inside another. I didn't want to repeat that story. By the 8th month, I was exhausted. The doctor had already warned me to avoid stress. I had experienced bleeding during the pregnancy. He wanted me to rest. That evening, I was alone. Then the phone rang. For months, I had swallowed my feelings. That evening, I couldn't anymore. I told my mother-in-law how overwhelmed I felt, how frightened I was, how much I needed peace, how for just a little while, I needed everyone to stop pulling on Sebastian because our daughter was about to arrive. It wasn't a graceful conversation. It wasn't my proudest moment. It was simply the moment when everything I had been carrying finally spilled over. Then the phone kept ringing. His father, his brother, everyone wanted to protect someone they loved. And I understood that. I really did. But as I sat there, 8 months pregnant, alone in Berlin, I couldn't stop thinking. Everyone seemed to have someone standing beside them, except me. So I called the one person I believed would protect me, my husband. I wasn't looking for someone to take my side. I wasn't asking him to choose between his family and me. I simply needed him to stand beside me. Instead, I felt more alone than I had before I made the call. That night, something inside me became very quiet. Not because I stopped loving him, because I stopped believing he could be the person I needed him to be.
That night, I left. Not forever, just for the night. I went to my best friend's apartment. I cried. Not because of one phone call, not because of one argument. I cried because for the first time, I could no longer recognize the life I had fought so hard to build. The next morning, I went back. Not because everything was okay, because I was 8 months pregnant. I was still a student. I had no income, no family nearby. Sometimes people ask why someone stays, as if leaving were only a question of courage. Sometimes it's a question of survival. So I came back. But I didn't come back the same woman who had walked out the night before. Until then, I felt as though we had both been pulling on the same rope. His family pulling from one side, me from the other. Trying to build a life, trying to keep him close, trying to become the priority. Then something inside me changed. I let go. I remember thinking, he's their son. And suddenly, I stopped fighting. Not because I had accepted the situation, because I had accepted that I could not change it. Sometimes people think relationships end with shouting. Mine ended with silence. Then our daughter arrived. She was beautiful, perfect. She filled every room with joy. For a little while, everything else disappeared. When people looked at us, they saw a young family beginning its life together. And in many ways, they were right. A new life had begun, just not the one everyone imagined. Because while my daughter was taking her very first breath, I had already made one of the biggest decisions of my life. I wasn't going to stay. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but deep inside, I already knew. One day, I would leave. I thought marrying the opposite of your father would make everything better. So did I. When I was a little girl, I thought the opposite of fear was safety. But adulthood taught me something children cannot yet understand. The opposite isn't always the answer. I had spent my childhood running away from one kind of man without ever asking myself what kind of man was truly right for me. Sometimes, life doesn't heal us by giving us the opposite of our wounds. Sometimes, it heals us by teaching us to ask better questions. Did you leave him? Not yet.
First, I had to become someone I no longer recognized. Only then would I finally begin finding my way back to myself. There are moments when a person knows her life must change, long before she is ready to change it. When my daughter was born, I already knew I would leave my marriage one day. I did not know when, I did not know how. I only knew that something inside me had stopped believing. But leaving a life is not the same as walking out of a door. Sometimes, before a woman can leave, she has to become strong enough to survive what comes after. And sometimes, while she is building that strength, she becomes someone she never intended to be. The Journey of a Fearless Soul, Episode 5, The Woman Who Became the Thing She Feared. After my daughter was born, my world became smaller and more meaningful. There were feeds, sleepless nights, tiny clothes, soft cries, a little hand that could wrap itself around one of my fingers and somehow hold my entire heart. I had become a mother, and for a while, motherhood covered everything else. The disappointment, the loneliness, the decision I had already made. When I looked at my daughter, I felt love in its purest form. But love for a child does not automatically repair the relationship that created her. My daughter brought joy into our home. She did not remove what had already broken between us. During my pregnancy, Sebastian had stopped holding my hand in public. It seemed like a small thing, but small things often reveal what words try to hide. Before, he had been affectionate, proud to be beside me, tender, present. Then slowly, I began to feel as though he was walking beside me without truly being with me. He still made time for the family he came from. He still drove south, still returned to the house where he had grown up, still defended their needs, their expectations, their place in his life. But when I tried to explain what I needed, he told me I was not being understanding enough. His family loved me. They only wanted to spend time with us. That was how he explained it. And perhaps they did love me. But love can still become heavy when it leaves no space for a new family to form. I was not asking him to stop being their son. I was asking him to become my husband, to become our daughter's father, to build something with us that did not always feel secondary to what already existed. But the more I tried to explain, the more I became the problem. As a child, I had divided men into two simple categories: men like my father and men who were nothing like him. My father had been frightening, unfaithful, violent, a man whose presence could silence an entire house. So I had believed that everything about him was wrong. But marriage began teaching me something more complicated. My father had also been independent, established, charismatic. He had built a life of his own. He did not need permission from his parents to become a man. He had his own home, his own work, his own authority. He took care of his family. None of those qualities erased the harm he caused, but the harm he caused did not erase every strength he possessed either. That was difficult for me to understand, because children protect themselves through simplicity. Good, bad, safe, dangerous, hero, monster. But adulthood introduces contradictions. A man can be strong and still be cruel. A man can be gentle and still be unable to give you what you need. And I began to understand that I had chosen Sebastian by looking backward. I had asked only one question: is he the opposite of my father? I had never asked, is he right for me? When my daughter was still only a few months old, I made one final attempt to save our marriage. I suggested therapy. Part of me hoped the therapist would confirm everything I had been trying to explain, that Sebastian needed to focus on the family we had created, that marriage required separation from the home in which a person had been raised, that being a good son could not always come before being a present husband. I wanted someone neutral to look at him and say, "You have a wife now, you have a child, they must become your priority." But that is not what happened. The therapist listened to both of us. She listened to the history, the family, the conflict, the years of Sebastian being deeply connected to his parents. Then she explained that this was who he was. This was how he had been raised. His family was central to his identity. And then she gave me two choices. accept him as he was, or leave. I had gone into that room hoping she would change him. Instead, she changed me. She made me understand that I had been waiting for Sebastian to become someone else, someone more independent, more decisive, more focused on us, someone closer to the man I needed him to be. But perhaps that man had never existed. The therapist did not tell me my needs were wrong. She did not tell me Sebastian was wrong. She simply removed the illusion that one of us would eventually become different enough to make the marriage work. Accept him or leave. Those words stayed with me, because deep inside, I already knew my answer. The marriage did not end when I moved out. It ended long before that. It ended quietly, without lawyers, without boxes, without anyone changing an address. It ended when I finally understood that love could not turn incompatibility into compatibility, that history could not replace partnership, that tenderness at 18 could not guarantee strength in adulthood. I still lived with Sebastian. I still wore my wedding ring. We still raised our daughter beneath the same roof. To the outside world, we were still married. But inside me, something had already left. Knowing I wanted to leave did not mean I was ready to leave. I was still completing my master's degree. I had a baby. I had no job, no financial independence, and I knew what my family believed about divorce. Marriage was not something a woman abandoned because she was unhappy. A woman endured. She adjusted. She prayed. She protected the family name. She avoided shame. I had watched my mother remain in a marriage through things far worse than what I was experiencing: betrayal, violence, humiliation. So to many people, my reasons would never be enough. Sebastian was not my father. He did not beat me. He did not fill the house with terror. He was gentle. He was a good person. And sometimes, leaving a good person is harder to explain than escaping a cruel one. Because people believe goodness should automatically create compatibility. It does not. A person can be good and still be wrong for you. So I began with the first thing I could control: my education. I finished my master's degree. I studied between feeds, between naps, between the responsibilities of motherhood. I carried my daughter and my future at the same time. Graduation was not only an academic achievement, it was the first part of my exit. A degree meant possibilities. Possibilities meant work. Work meant money. And money meant that one day, I could make a decision without asking whether I could afford it. When my daughter was 8 months old, she started nursery, and I started working. Leaving her there for the first time was difficult. I was her mother, her comfort, her food, her familiar arms. But I also knew that becoming financially independent was part of protecting both of us. So every morning, I prepared my daughter for nursery. Then, I prepared myself for work. I became a mother with a schedule, a woman with responsibilities, a graduate with a salary. And slowly, I began building a life that could exist beyond my marriage. I did not leave immediately. I stayed for 3 years after my daughter was born. 3 years of working, saving, preparing. 3 years of living inside a marriage I had already left emotionally. There was no dramatic plan pinned to a wall. No date circled in red. No suitcase hidden beneath the bed. Just small steps. A salary. A little money saved. A growing sense that I could survive on my own. People often imagine leaving as one courageous moment. But sometimes leaving is built quietly, one ordinary decision at a time. While I was building financial independence, something else was changing too. My body. Pregnancy had transformed it, then breastfeeding transformed it again. My daughter drank so much milk, the weight disappeared almost without effort. I exercised. I became stronger. My waist grew smaller. My body became curvier. The girl I had been before motherhood did not return. A different woman appeared, more womanly, more confident, more aware of herself. For years, I had dressed simply, sweetly, like the good girl I had always tried to be. But now, I began experimenting. Makeup, hair, fitted clothes, high heels. I was still Celestine, but I was beginning to meet a version of her I had never known before. Then the world began responding. People looked at me. Men noticed me. Compliments arrived. At first, I did not know what to do with the attention. I had been noticed before, but this felt different. I was no longer the shy student in South Africa, no longer the young woman waiting for one man to choose her, no longer the pregnant wife walking beside a husband who had stopped reaching for her hand. I had become visible in a new way, and after feeling unseen for so long, being seen felt powerful. And then, Sebastian saw me again. When I had needed his attention, he had looked elsewhere, toward his parents, his responsibilities, the life he understood. But when other people began looking at me, his eyes returned. He noticed the clothes, the confidence, the messages, the attention. He began asking questions. Where was I going? Who was I speaking to? Who was looking at my photographs? Suddenly, the woman he had taken for granted had become interesting again. But by then, something important had already happened. The moment he finally saw me was the moment I had already stopped waiting to be seen. One day, a photographer contacted me through social media. He said I was photogenic. He was building his portfolio and wanted to photograph me. I said yes. At first, it felt innocent, creative, exciting. I stood beneath the lights, unsure of what to do with my hands, unsure of how to position my body, unsure whether I truly belonged in front of a camera. But then the camera clicked, again and again, and with every photograph, I became less afraid of being looked at. Then the photographer asked whether I would pose in a bikini. The good girl inside me hesitated, the girl who had always been careful, the girl who had learned that a woman's body could become a story people used against her, the girl who had spent years saying no to anything that might make people whisper. But another part of me was growing louder, the part that was tired of behaving correctly, tired of being respectable, tired of living according to rules that had never made me happy. So I said yes. And when the pictures appeared online, the attention multiplied. Followers, messages, invitations. Men who had never known me suddenly wanted access to my world. Or perhaps they wanted me to enter theirs. For years, I had wanted one man to look at me. Now, strangers were competing for my attention. Some were ordinary, some were successful, some were men whose faces appeared on television, the kind of men people recognized, the kind of men whose invitations felt like entry into another world. And I would be lying if I said it meant nothing to me. It meant something. It felt like proof that I was beautiful, proof that I was desirable, proof that my life could become larger than the apartment, the marriage, the family expectations, the role of the good wife. Attention made the walls around me feel less permanent. It showed me doors, and I began wanting to walk through them. All of this began while I was still living with my husband. I had not yet moved out. I was still a wife in every official sense, still sharing a home, still raising our daughter together, but emotionally, I had already left. The attention from outside did not end my marriage. The marriage had ended inside me before the attention arrived. But the attention showed me something dangerous. It showed me how many other lives appeared to be waiting, how many men wanted me, how much larger my world could become. And instead of asking whether those doors led somewhere good, I became consumed by the fact that they had opened at all. I had spent my whole life being good, the obedient daughter, the excellent student, the careful girl, the faithful partner, the respectable wife, the responsible mother. I had followed the rules, and still, I had found myself inside a life that did not feel like mine. So a question began growing inside me. What had being good protected me from? It had not protected my sister. It had not protected my mother. It had not protected me from disappointment. And slowly, the good girl became angry. She no longer wanted to be admired for enduring. She wanted to experience, to choose, to rebel, to become everything she had once been afraid to become. When I finally told my mother I wanted a divorce, she was against it. My family was against it. To them, divorce meant shame, failure, a broken family, a decision that would follow a woman everywhere she went. They wanted me to stay, to think about my daughter, to think about the family, to think about what people would say. But I had spent my childhood watching my mother stay. She had stayed through infidelity, through violence, through pain, through things I had promised myself I would never accept. And although my marriage was different, the lesson I had taken from her life was simple. I would leave. I would not wait until the situation became unbearable enough for everyone else to approve of my departure. I did not need Sebastian to become my father before I was allowed to choose myself. Because divorce was seen as something so terrible, I even offered another possibility. We could remain officially married, for the family, for appearances, for the people who cared more about the title than the reality. But we could live separate lives. I could stop pretending to be happy. He could continue being who he was. It was not the life I wanted, but at that point, even a false marriage with honest distance felt better than a false marriage built on daily performance. Sebastian did not want that either. He did not want me to leave. He did not want separate lives. He wanted to preserve the marriage. But by then, I no longer wanted to preserve something simply because it had once been beautiful.
My daughter was 3 years old when I finally left. For 3 years, I had continued living beside Sebastian, working, saving, mothering, preparing. 3 years is a long time to remain somewhere after your heart has already gone. But I was not only leaving a husband, I was leaving an identity. The young girl who had crossed continents for love. The wife who had believed gentleness would be enough. The daughter who had been taught that marriage must be protected. The woman whose family wanted her to remain. Every day I stayed, I became more certain. And every day I became more certain Sebastian seemed to understand that he was losing me. When Sebastian realized I was truly leaving, he tried to stop me. He promised to focus more on us, to be more present, to change the things I had spent years asking him to change. And I believe he meant it. Loss can make people understand the value of something they assumed would always remain. But by then, I was done. Not angry, not uncertain, done. I had already mourned the marriage while living inside it. I had cried the tears, asked the questions, made the requests, waited for the change. By the time he offered me what I had once wanted, I no longer wanted it from him. Some promises arrive too late, not because they are insincere, but because the person who needed them no longer exists. Then one day, I walked out. I had spent years imagining that moment. I thought leaving would feel dramatic, like breaking chains, like reclaiming my life, like becoming free. But the moment itself was quiet. A suitcase, my daughter's hand, a door. A man I had once loved standing behind me, and a life I no longer recognized waiting ahead. I did not know what freedom would make of me. I only knew I was finally ready to find out. When I finally left, I believed freedom would answer every question. I thought leaving would return me to myself, that once the marriage was behind me, I would know exactly who I was. But freedom does not always arrive with instructions. Sometimes it simply removes the walls and leaves you standing in the open with every direction available. For the first time, I could make decisions without asking what a wife should do, without wondering what my family would approve of, without trying to protect a marriage I no longer believed in. I was free, and I had no idea what to do with all that freedom. During the day, I was a mother. I worked, paid bills, prepared meals, took my daughter to nursery, picked her up, held her when she was tired, built routines, created a home. But there was another part of me, a part that had waited quietly through years of responsibility. At night, she wanted to come alive. I had spent so long being sensible, careful, dependable. Now I wanted to know what happened when I stopped asking whether something was appropriate and asked only whether I wanted it. The attention that had begun while I was still married grew after I left. There were men who wanted to meet me, men with money, men with names people recognized, football players, athletes, men whose lives seemed to exist behind television screens, inside stadiums, inside photographs, inside worlds that had once felt very far from mine. Then suddenly, they were sending me messages, booking flights, sending cars, inviting me into beautiful places. And every invitation felt like proof that I had crossed into another life. That life looked beautiful. Flights booked at the last minute. Hotels I would not have chosen for myself. Restaurants where every detail seemed designed to impress. Cities appearing beneath airplane windows. Men who knew how to make an evening feel important. For a woman who had spent years feeling trapped, movement felt like power. Every airport seemed to say, "You are no longer stuck." Every invitation seemed to say, "You are wanted." Every beautiful room seemed to whisper, "This is what freedom looks like." And for a while, I believed it. One of the first men I became involved with was a football player. He was exciting, desired, used to attention, used to women. And for a while, I allowed myself to believe I was different, that among all the people looking at him, he had truly chosen me. Then I discovered he was cheating. It should not have surprised me.
But pain does not become smaller simply because the warning signs were visible. I had left a marriage because I wanted something real, and one of the first men I met in my freedom gave me another version of betrayal. Then there was another man, another beautiful world, another invitation, another story that seemed promising until reality entered it. He was married. I had not known, or perhaps I had not wanted to look too closely at the spaces in his story, the calls he could not take, the times he disappeared, the parts of his life that remained carefully hidden. And when I discovered the truth, I felt something familiar. Not because the men were the same, but because the pattern was a beautiful beginning, a hidden reality, a woman left to discover what a man had chosen not to tell her. The photographs continued too. More photographers contacted me, more shoots, more clothes, more bikinis, more images appearing online. But not every photographer saw a woman creating art. Some saw a body, an opportunity, an invitation that had never been given. There were moments when I stood beneath the lights and realized the person behind the camera was no longer interested in the photograph. He was interested in access. And suddenly, the attention that had once made me feel powerful made me feel like an object. The names changed, the cities changed, the photographs changed, the men changed, but the story kept repeating itself. Someone desired me, someone impressed me, someone offered me a glimpse of a beautiful life. Then reality arrived. Cheating, marriage, lies, hidden intentions, promises that disappeared once they received what they wanted. I had believed more choices would lead me closer to the right person. Instead, more choices often gave me more ways to become disappointed. I had become desirable. There was no question about that. Men looked, men wrote, men invited, men pursued. And at first, I believed desire was a form of value, that being wanted by many people meant I had finally become important. But desire is easy. It can be created by a photograph, a dress, a body, a fantasy. Being known is harder. Being respected is harder. Being loved is harder. And the more people wanted the version of me they saw online, the more invisible the woman behind the photographs became. As a child, I had been terrified of becoming the kind of woman people talked about. The girl who ran around with men, the girl who made mistakes, the girl who brought shame, the girl my father had accused my sister of becoming. So I had spent years moving in the opposite direction, careful, obedient, controlled. Then one day, I became tired of being afraid of that woman. And instead of discovering who I truly was, I became her on purpose. The bad girl, the rebellious woman, the woman who did what she wanted, the woman who did not care what people said. Or at least, that was the story I told myself. The more my family judged me, the more I rebelled. The more they told me to return to Sebastian, the more determined I became to prove that I would not. The more they spoke about shame, the less interested I became in respectability. I was angry at my husband, at my family, at the rules, at the religion I believed people used to keep women inside lives that were destroying them. At the idea that a woman's goodness was measured by how much she could endure. So I pushed further, not always because I wanted the experience itself, but because I wanted everyone to understand that they no longer controlled me. And rebellion can feel like freedom, even when the person you are fighting
is no longer in the room. Through all of it, I was still a mother. That part of my life did not disappear. I worked, I cared for my daughter, I built her routines. I made sure she was loved. I returned from one world and entered another. Some nights, I arrived home wearing the clothes of the woman everyone desired, then sat beside my daughter's bed in silence. Two versions of me living inside the same body. The mother and the woman trying to prove she belonged only to herself. I told myself they could remain separate, but no part of us remains completely separate forever. Eventually, every life we live begins asking what it is making of us. Leaving the apartment did not end the marriage legally. Sebastian did not want the divorce. He resisted it, delayed it, missed court appearances, created obstacles. What should have been an ending became a 4-year battle. 4 years of paperwork, appointments, arguments, waiting. 4 years of being separated from a man while still carrying his name. I had walked through the door, but on paper, I was still not free. When Sebastian understood that I would not return, something changed. The man who had once loved me began trying to make leaving painful. There were accusations, threats, attempts to frighten me. At one point, he went to the police and lied about me. The accusation was serious enough that I could have been arrested. For a moment, the freedom I had fought for seemed capable of disappearing completely. But lies create confusion. Evidence creates clarity, and fortunately, I could prove the truth. I had proof, messages, documents, facts. The story he had created could not survive reality. And that experience taught me something important, although I would not fully understand it until later. A lie can be loud, threatening, convincing. It can make your body panic before your mind has had time to think. But reality does not need to shout. It simply remains true. And when the evidence was placed beside the accusation, the lie fell apart. The divorce lasted 4 years. 4 years of asking for the same thing, freedom. By the end, I no longer wanted victory. I no longer wanted anyone to agree with me. I no longer wanted Sebastian to understand. I simply wanted the process to end. Sometimes, freedom stops looking like a brand new life. Sometimes, it looks like a signature, a stamp, a final piece of paper, a door that can no longer be locked from the other side. Then, 1 year before the divorce was finalized, the lion died. My father, the man I had feared as a child, the man I had spent years defining myself against, the man whose shadow had followed me into love, marriage, motherhood, and rebellion. He was gone. And grief did something I did not expect. It refused to make him simple. When someone has hurt you, people imagine grief should be easier, as though death erases only the good people, as though losing a complicated father creates a simple sadness. But I did not lose only the man who frightened me. I lost the possibility that he might one day become the father I had needed. I lost the chance for new conversations, new understanding, new answers. I lost the man he was and the man he would now never become.
And suddenly, the lion was no longer a monster standing at the gate. He was a human being, flawed, powerful, cruel, generous, charismatic, wounded, contradictory, dead. That same year, another loss entered our family. One of my brothers died. Not the future king, another brother. Another life suddenly gone. Grief arrived twice before I had learned how to carry it once. And for a while, everything I had built to distract myself became useless. The attention, the invitations, the photographs, the flights, none of it could reach the place loss had opened. Death has a way of stripping life of its performance. It asks questions glamour cannot answer. 1 year later, the divorce was finally completed. After 4 years, I received the freedom I had fought so hard to obtain. I had imagined that day many times. I thought I would celebrate, feel triumphant, feel relieved. And part of me did. But freedom arrived beside grief. My father was dead. My brother was dead. My marriage was officially over. And the woman who had begun this journey was gone too. I had wanted to leave because my mother never did. I had wanted to prove that a woman could choose herself, that she could refuse to endure, that she could walk away before a relationship destroyed her. And I still believed that leaving had been the right decision. But right decisions can still have painful consequences. Freedom had cost me years, conflict, family relationships, innocence, a version of myself I had once trusted. I had escaped the marriage, but somewhere during the escape, I had lost direction. For years, noise had protected me from reflection. Messages, travel, men, conflict, court, family, work, motherhood. There was always something happening, something to react to, something to resist. Then one night, there was nothing left to fight. The divorce was finished. The lion was gone. The people who judged me could no longer decide my life. The invitations were still there. The attention was still there. But for the first time, I allowed the room to become quiet. In silence, began asking the question I had avoided. Who had I become? Around me were the remains of every identity I had tried to inhabit. The good girl, the wife, the mother, the model, the desired woman, the rebel, the woman who left, the woman who fought, the grieving daughter. Each version had been real, but none of them felt complete. I had spent years becoming the opposite of something, the opposite of my father, the opposite of my mother, the opposite of the obedient girl, the opposite of the invisible wife. But opposites had already failed me once. And somehow, I had built another life using the same mistake.
Was she a bad woman?
No, she was a lost woman. There is a difference. Badness was the name other people gave women who stopped obeying. But being free and being whole were not the same thing. I had escaped the woman everyone wanted me to be. I simply had not yet discovered the woman I wanted to become.
How did you find her?
First, I had to stop fighting reality and allow it to lead me somewhere new. Sometimes, starting over is not about becoming someone new. It is about finally meeting the person who was there all along. After everything that had happened, I thought I needed a new beginning. I did not yet understand that what I really needed was to come home to myself. The Journey of a Fearless Soul, Episode 6, The Lioness. After my father died, my life changed very quickly. My brother died that same year, and not long after, my divorce was finally completed. It was one of the most difficult periods of my life. I was grieving, I was exhausted, and for a while, I fell into a depression. Berlin had been my home for many years. It was where I had studied, where I had become a wife, a mother, where my marriage had ended, where I had fought to begin again. But by then, I felt that chapter was over. Part of my family lived in Switzerland, and after so much loss, I wanted to be closer to family. So I made another decision. My daughter and I would move, and once again, we would start over. Switzerland became our new home. For my daughter, it meant a new school, new friends, a new environment. For me, it meant rebuilding again, a new home, a new job, a new routine, a new life. And although her father and I were divorced, he remained present in her life. He could work from almost anywhere. And over the years, wherever my daughter and I lived, he was never very far away. Our marriage was over, but he was still her father. And in our own way, we learned how to continue being a family, just in a different form. For a long time, I stopped dating. I had spent so many years moving from one emotion to another: marriage, motherhood, conflict, divorce, grief, men, family, work. There had always been something happening, and suddenly, I wanted quiet. I started exercising more. I discovered wellness, spas, saunas, massages, meditation. And somewhere along the way, I became what I still proudly call a spa junkie. But underneath all of that relaxation, I was doing something I had rarely done before. I was spending time with myself, not performing, not fighting, not trying to impress anyone, just being. I went deeper into therapy. I became interested in psychology, in behavior, in trauma, in the things that happen to us and the things we continue doing because of what happened to us. I became fascinated by the mind. I studied hypnotherapy. Eventually, I even became a certified hypnotherapist. The more I learned about people, the more I learned about myself. Why certain things triggered me, why certain personalities attracted me, why I could recognize some kinds of danger immediately and completely miss others, why we sometimes return to familiar emotions, even when the people creating them look completely different. I started understanding that knowing your past is not the same thing as healing from it. Sometimes you can understand exactly where a wound came from and still keep choosing from the wound. Eventually, I dated again. One of the men I entered a relationship with was a doctor. I thought I was older now, wiser, more experienced. I thought perhaps knowing more about myself meant I would automatically make better choices. But healing does not work that quickly. That relationship became unhealthy too, and when it ended, I eventually needed a restraining order for him to leave me alone. It was the second time in my life that leaving a relationship had become something I needed protection to do. And this time, I stopped asking only, what is wrong with him? And I began asking, what is happening inside me? Not because I was responsible for another person's behavior. I wasn't. But I was responsible for understanding my own patterns. Why had certain things felt familiar to me? What had I learned about love as a child? What had I learned about strength, about fear, about staying, about leaving? And what was I still carrying without realizing I was carrying it? I had spent so much of my life looking outward, at my father, at my mother, at my husband, at the men I dated, at my family, at what other people had done. This time, I looked inward, and that changed everything. Years passed. My daughter grew. I worked, I changed, I learned. I built a life. Not a perfect life, my life. And slowly, I began to enjoy the woman I was becoming. I learned to enjoy my own company. I learned that being alone was not the same thing as being lonely. I learned that attention was not love, that chemistry was not compatibility, that understanding someone's wounds did not mean I had to accept being wounded by them, and that loving someone did not require losing myself. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for someone else to build a life with me. I had already built one. And through everything, there was my daughter, the little girl who had once made me realize that I wanted something different. As she grew, I understood that being her mother did not mean giving her a perfect life. I couldn't protect her from every disappointment, every heartbreak, every mistake. But I could give her something else. A mother who kept getting up. A mother who could change her mind. A mother who could leave what was hurting her. A mother who could admit when she was wrong. A mother who could build again. And perhaps that was one of the most important things I could ever teach her. There was another thing I slowly learned. For most of my life, I wanted to be seen. As a child, I wanted my father to see me. Later, I wanted people I loved to understand me, to approve of my decisions, to acknowledge what I had built, what I had survived, what I had created. And sometimes, the people I hoped would say something said nothing. There was a time when silence could make me question myself. Maybe it wasn't good enough. Maybe it wasn't important. Maybe I wasn't important. But eventually, I stopped allowing other people's reactions to determine the value of what I created. Their applause could not make me more valuable, and their silence could not make me less. I didn't need everybody to understand me. I didn't need everybody to agree with me. I didn't even need everybody to see me, because finally, I saw myself. Eventually, I opened myself to dating again. But this time, I dated differently. Not perfectly, differently. I wasn't looking for the opposite of my father anymore. I wasn't looking for someone to rescue me. I wasn't looking for someone whose attention would prove my worth. I wanted to know the person in front of me. Who are you? How do you treat people? Do your actions match your words? How do I feel when I am with you? Can I remain myself beside you? And if the answer was no, I was learning that I could simply walk away. No war, no proving, no convincing. Just no. And then, one of the men I met was a lion. Not the lion from my childhood, a different kind of lion. Strong, confident, independent. Imperfect, but gentle with me. A gentle lion.
And one day, while we were talking, he looked at me and called me a lioness. A lioness. No one had ever called me that before. He probably had no idea what that word would mean to me, but I did. I had spent my childhood afraid of the lion. Then I spent much of my life trying to become his opposite. But the truth was, I had never been his opposite. I was his daughter, and there was a lot of him in me. His strength, his stubbornness, his intensity, his ambition, his ability to take up space, his refusal to disappear. For years, I had been so focused on everything I did not want to inherit that I had forgotten something. We do not only inherit wounds. Sometimes we inherit strength too. Being like my father in some ways did not mean I had to become my father. I could choose what to do with what I had inherited. I could be strong without frightening the people I loved. I could be powerful without making anyone smaller. I could be stubborn about protecting my peace, ambitious about building my dreams, fearless about walking away from what was not right for me. The lion had been part of my story, but he did not get to decide what being a lion meant. I could decide that for myself. I was a lion too, a lioness.
Are you fearless now?
No. I still have fears. I still have doubts. And I still have no idea what life has planned for me. But I know something now that I didn't know before. Whatever happens, I trust myself. I have built myself before. And if life breaks what I build, I know I can build again.
So that's what fearless means?
To me, yes. Not living without fear. Living without letting fear decide who you become. I spent so much of my life trying to become the opposite of the lion. It took me all these years to understand I was never his opposite. I was a lioness all along. And whatever comes next, I'm open to reality surprising me.